Welcome to Occasional Randomness. I'm your host, Eric Scott, and joining me, as always, is my fellow co-host, someone who has nothing to hide, Jason Johnson.
Nope, nothing at all. But if I don't get what I want, I will set off this thermal detonator or whatever this legally distinct thing is that won't get us sued.
Yeah. An unlicensed thermonuclear reactor.
I met some guys at the mall and got some plutonium off of them. It's all above board. We're good to go.
Yep. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah. So this
Not
time
across
around,
the streams, but were those Serbians? I can't remember. Anyway, no, whatever.
No, that was different.
Oh,
different franchise. But go back to our normal franchise here. This time around, we'll be tackling season 4, episode 20. Almost done.
No,
We're so screwed. Part 2, Hot to Katratzi, which, as you might know from the title, this is the second episode of a 3-part story, as we find out at the end here. And yet, of course, another surprise ending, since it's a 3-part story, so you got to do the cliffhanger, which we'll get into for sure as we get to the end of the episode here.
So you're saying this is the Empire Strikes Back of the Farscapes?
Pretty much, yeah. So we'll see if they keep up with the, part 2 being the best part of everything, but we'll see. Yeah. And as always, a little public service announcement here. If you like what we do, please give us a like or a review. We would appreciate it. Or better yet, spread the word around and let everybody know about us. We should appreciate that even more, probably.
Yes, please and thank you.
Yep. All right. So even number episode means you're up for the new condensed AI recap.
Hey, don't tell our secrets.
Yeah.
All right. So let's jump into Farscape, season 4, episode 20. We're so screwed, part 2, Hot to Katratzi. All right, I'm done. That was a lot. No,
not the longest episode title, but yeah.
Yep, the way I read it, it was. So we start out with Scorpius, who's imprisoned on Katratzi and subjected to the extreme Scarran torture by a minister, Akna, who demands his knowledge of wormholes. There's a surprise. Kind of been the theme lately, hasn't it? Despite the pain, Scorpius taunts her relentlessly and refuses to reveal anything, confident that his mind remains intact. Meanwhile, Crichton and the crew infiltrate the Scarran base aboard Lola, openly acknowledging the insanity of their plan. We're going to walk into the most heavily guarded base in the Scarran Empire, start a civil war, and walk out with Scorpius. What part do you not understand? Aaron asks.
No problem.
It's straightforward. You give him that. Aaron asks, break. Using Sikozu as diplomatic cover, they gain clearance by claiming Crichton wishes to join the peace negotiations. Crichton carries what he claims is a thermonuclear bomb wired to a multiple deadman sensors, explaining that if his vitals or emotional state change, we all go boom. Too hot, too cold, too happy, too sad. Boom, boom, boom. At the peace conference, Crichton shocks Emperor Stalik, Greza, and the assembled delegates by declaring that everyone in the room wants what's inside his head. He reframes the negotiations as a standoff, announcing, "Welcome to my Cold War." Declaring himself a uniquely dangerous wildcard, he insists that wormhole technology is his to sell and that he alone controls the terms. He asks what the offers are for all the powers of the universe. Privately, Greza attempts to sway Crichton, claiming the Peacekeepers are close to developing wormhole weapons themselves. Crichton doubts her sincerity and refuses to commit, warning that whoever figures out how to end the standoff first will win. Akna convinced Crichton is bluffing and has come only to rescue Scorpius, orders further analysis of the bomb while escalating Scorpius' interrogation. Stark, remember him?
Yeah, hey, surprise guest star.
Yeah. He's brought in as a final measure, threatening Scorpius with soul extraction during death. As you make your antagonizing passage to the other side, I'm going to capture your soul, and with it, everything you know. As negotiations stall, the crew initiates a destabilization plan. Doggone Rigel manipulate the Charids with promises of advantages, while Sikozu secretly allies with the Kalish resistance. Revealing her bioloid nature,
Huh?
she confirms the depth of hatred between the factions and encourages it, intending to ignite open conflict as a distraction. Crichton proves his leverage when Scarran Striker, sent to test coordinates from his navigational chip, is swallowed by a wormhole. Furious, Stalek confronts him, but Crichton refuses to provide further demonstrations, warning that if the Scarrans do not deal with him, he would sell the technology elsewhere. Stark continues to torture Scorpius. Okna orders Stark to conceal himself when Crichton and Aaron arrive. She allows only Crichton into the chamber, with Pinnock restraining Aaron outside. Crichton witnesses Scorpius' condition firsthand, but as he steps closer, Okna ambushes him with a heat probe, forcing him to experience the pain himself, while Aaron struggles helplessly. Okna admits that she now believes Crichton's bomb is real, but insists he must be able to disarm it. Crichton calmly replies that he could, but won't. As Okna accuses him of bluffing, the bomb's sensors begin to accelerate, its readouts climbing rapidly. Realizing the risk, Okna breaks off the assault, releases Aaron, and allows her to help Crichton to his feet, dismissing him as insane, but unwilling to push it further.
Which is not too far from the truth, but
yeah, at this point. Flashback to the Looney Tune episode, but anyway. Later, John and Aaron, with Sikozu's help, further inflame tensions by infiltrating the sacred Critherium caverns, a location only the Charids are authorized to access, deliberately implicating them and accelerating mistrust. Stalek intervenes in Scorpius' torture, realizing Okna has gained nothing while Crichton has destroyed a warship and breached secure areas of the base. Alone with the Emperor, Scorpius reveals he has only pretended to break and offers a solution. He can separate Crichton from the bomb and gain his trust. When questioned about betrayal, he replies calmly that he has served faithfully for 10 cycles as a spy. Why would he betray the Emperor now?
Double, huh?
Double? Yeah, I was about to say the exact same thing. Double, huh? Greza offers Crichton a full Peacekeeper pardon, conditional on denying the Scarrans' wormhole technology. Crichton refuses to commit, choosing instead to maintain the stalemate. As open conflict erupts between the Kalesh and the Charids, Stalek presents Scorpius to Crichton as a gesture of trust. Crichton demands long-term personal safety in return, asking what the Emperor hears when he wakes up each day. Crichton wants to wake up like an Emperor for the rest of his life. Stalek agrees to guarantee his protection for a limited time. Fearing that Scorpius may have spoken under torture, Crichton abruptly orders Aaron to kill him. Kill him and let's go. When she refuses, reminding him of the promise he once made her give, he insists. Aaron finally says, I release you from that promise. Crichton pulls his gun and prepares to act, but ultimately recognizes Scorpius is telling the truth and stands down. Amid the chaos of the riot, the crew extracts Scorpius and heads for his escape. In the hangar, Scorpius suddenly incapacitates Aaron and restrains Crichton, forcing him to confront the ultimate gamble. As the bomb sensors accelerate towards detonation, Scorpius urges him, if you trust me enough to live, you may well discover the truth. To be continued. So, a little trivia, as we normally do. Pilot does not appear in this episode, but Stark appears for the first time since the previous season's Fractures, which, for those keeping track, was Season 3, Episode 18.
It's almost like a full season, basically. A full season plus, yeah.
Yeah, good bit of time. Ben Browder ad-libbed the I Am an American scene. Guy Gross, the composer, considered putting in it the American national anthem, but decided it would be a little too over the top. The dance in the elevator between Crichton and Aaron was decided by Ben and Claudia Black, who felt that they deserved a romantic moment amid all the chaos. The subtitle for the episode was suggested as a joke by Ricky Manning. According to director Carl Zwicky, the script for this episode had the most changes, going through 12 revisions. And finally, Sikozu is revealed to be a bioloid. She does not appear to be the same sort of bioloid as the fake Aaron. Yeah, which we'll circle back to.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, so this one has several twists and turns, but overall, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, another fantastic episode. I loved it. Yeah, a couple of little questions we'll get into, but overall, yeah, I mean, and we've said it every single time they've done a multi-part story that they're always like the best of the series. And for sure, this one is up there. It definitely kept your attention the whole time. and I wasn't drifting off of my phone or checking other things or whatever. And like I was saying, this is a pretty good episode. And trying to think back, like, were all the middle episodes of prior Farscape trilogy stories as good as the other, the ones around it? I don't know. But kind of seems like in general, most middle episode stories are great. Like you mentioned before, the Empire Strikes Back or the Two Towers, etc. Except for the Matrix one. But anyway, we'll do that. But
there's only one Matrix. There's one Matrix and one Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yep. But this episode had, pretty much everything you love about Farscape. Lots of action, a large gunfight, everybody on the crew getting involved to some degree. John being John and firing off Earth references nonstop. Got the plans within plans, the betrayals within betrayals.
Curse them.
Yeah. And of course, like we mentioned, lots of character revelations that we'll get into later, definitely. So, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I agree with all that. Like you say, we get some revelations. Like you say, pretty confused about a couple of them. So those will be the big ones we'd probably get into a lot in our discussion. Lots of great action scenes. I think, after the last couple, I felt like we had several bottle episodes of Boyd Moya. This was kind of a nice, we're on a base, but lots of stuff going on with different factions. So lots of different moving pieces. And, we'll dive in, but I'll definitely say we're rolling towards an epic finale if we keep this right up.
Yeah, because we only got 2 more to go here. But the episode jumps around a lot because there's, all the crews involved. They got, all the subplots. So it jumps around, but I guess we'll just kind of get out of the way. I won't say out of the way, but talk first about the crew that just did kind of minor stuff and weren't in that many scenes. So we got Chiana and Noranti coming off their big episode last time. Just kind of wander around, listening for most of the episode, kind of just being nosy, spying, looking up, trying to find Scorpius. It was kind of funny when Chiana tried to kick Janik in the nards, or should I say the defunks, apparently. That's what you call them.
Yeah.
When he's the one that was kidnapped her last episode and tried to use her as Aaron's surrogate mommy there. And yeah, when she kicked him, she hurt herself because the Scarran says that's not where those are. So,
yeah. They're internal, which means there's probably some armor plating or something. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And other than that, just Noranti just hears Scorpius through an air vent and tells the others. And I guess later she knocks out a Scarran with, of course, her typical powder in the face thing. So okay, yeah.
Which was fine. But, definitely a bit of an underuse of Chiana. Like you said, she got one good scene, but really that was about the only involvement she had. But as we keep going, there was so much other stuff going on that, it's tough to keep everybody moving around in this and not keep it from being confusing. So.
Yeah, and plus what they said in the trivia, if this went through 12 revisions, maybe they had more stuff to do and they realized that we got to cut this down and, maybe we should get more stuff to do in the finale, part 3 next time.
It's on a cutting room floor somewhere, in the early 2000s, Australia.
Yeah. And then I got the Rigel and Dargo tag team here that had pretty much all their scenes with the Chariots in a bar kind of place. Trying to get them to think the Scarrans don't need them anymore once they have wormhole weapons because the Kalish are the techs and that's what they'll need. And the Kalish are also out to get rid of them because, again, we don't need you anymore. Yeah. And that does seem to help start the riot. At least it gets the one side riled up that Sikozu does the closer on later. So that works out.
So this was an interesting move, in my opinion. If you look at it, Dargo's basically the Mr. T of our A-team here. And yet they put him with Rigel, and their mission is to be more manipulative, right? That's their part of the plan, which, it worked. And Rigel probably would have had a harder time getting into that conversation with the Kalish if they, without that, or with the Chariots, rather. Sorry, I mixed the two up myself. But, it's just an interesting kind of neat use to see Dargo not used as the muscle, but more as part of the subterfuge team. of the plan.
Yeah, because with Rigel's history with the Chariots, or is it the Hynerians' history with the Chariots? Yeah, they were like, oh, look who brought the lunch in, because Rigel just by himself. But then you're putting in Dargo as kind of like the silent muscle to like not have them, ignore Rigel or it's like, okay, now I got to pay attention because, like I said, Mr. T's hanging in the background there.
But I mean, it at the same time, it takes him out of play for any of the actual more combat-oriented parts of the plan until the very end. So it was kind of a neat use of him that we don't usually get to see.
Yeah, showing, Dargo's just not the muscle. He's got, some kind of, smarts to like help, get some, wedge between the Chariots and their buddies.
And at this point, he's been on a ship with Rigel for umpteen years. So,
yeah,
some of it's had to bound to rub off.
Yeah, right. Learn some new tricks. And like we said in the recap here, we ran into an old crew member, Stark. Not quite sure how he came to be in Katratzi working for the Scarrans, which hopefully we'll learn about that next episode because he's still there and they're still there. But I mean, given Stark and Scorpius's past history, I can see that he would be willing to get the chance to get some revenge on Scorpius, since when we first saw him way back in season 1, he had been tortured by Scorpius in the Aurora chair like 100 times, like over like 2 cycles. So yeah, I could see, or could be like all in on that. Like, yep, I can't blame him. But yeah, it was cool to see him again. I definitely did not expect to see him pop up again.
Yeah, totally agree. Although I feel like I should have seen this one coming with we've had so many references, inside that wormhole to the Sikozu Stark and, how Stark was going to be vital to getting the knowledge of Katratzi. So it's kind of interesting that the real Stark, or at least this reality Stark, shows up before we get to the end. So that I thought that was kind of a neat circle. Yeah, you say it would be nice to kind of know how he ended up with the Scarrans, but given the rapid pace that we're approaching to the end, I don't know that we'll get a full answer. So maybe it's just, good to have him back before everything wraps and we'll go from there.
Yeah. And it's a good plan. I mean, if Akna winds up killing Scorpius through the torture before he, gives up his knowledge of wormholes, if he has any, which I'll talk about later, then yeah, you got Stark there as like the backup drive, right? To get what he knows when he passes over, and then she wins either way, right?
Well, and my only question on that is if you know that you've got Stark there, just go ahead and skip the torture and just go ahead and off him, and then use Stark and be done. Yeah. So
yeah, unless how accurate is what Stark, could Stark remember equations and whatever? I don't know. Like how detailed,
Yeah.
does that work?
It's not like
right?
the other reality where he has to love him, right? That's part of
right. Yeah, because that would never work.
Nope, that would not.
So that's kind of the end of the not John and Aaron. So let's get kind of on the main plot with the rest of our crew. Again, John and Aaron. The plan that they come up with at the beginning of the episode sounds like, again, another good plan, as these plans go. Yeah, you strap on a nuclear bomb, all kinds of sensors to detonate practically anything other than John just being a normal and happy self happens to him. Yeah, we saw a few times as he got a little excited or in pain that, a bunch of warning lights and beeps go off. Again, assuming it's not a bluff at all. It didn't sound like it when he's building the device, so I'm guessing it probably is not, because that's kind of the bluff you don't want called, right? If you have all the knowledge to basically destroy the universe, you don't really want to bluff it. You want it to be like, yep, it's going to blow up, we're all going to die, and don't make us nothing if you push me too far.
Yeah, I would, my only question on that's Aaron's presence, right? Because the fact that he let her walk in with him is where I kind of get like, or is it a bluff, right? Because does he really want her to be blown up too? And speaking of that, this was totally ripped from Return of the Jedi, right? I mean, yeah, assuming the bomb's real or not, but which I guess we'll find out next time because of how we end. But yeah, I think that was my hang up was, I could see him walking in by himself with a bomb, but walking in with his entire family crew, that's the part where I'm like, is it a bomb then? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, all we have is his word for it that he activated, right, back on Lola. So is he really bluffing and everybody else thinks it's real so that everybody else thinks it's real? But yeah, I mean, I'm thinking it's real because if things go south, you don't want them to get that wormhole knowledge because they could like destroy the universe or, go conquer everybody. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I can kind of see like, well, if I can't have my way, I'll take everybody out my way. And that way.
Which I guess would show that he's finally accepted what the ancients tried to tell him up front, right? Of how dangerous and important this wormhole technology stuff is. If he's willing to risk not just himself, but everybody else on the crew for it.
Yeah. I mean, he's realizing in these last several episodes or this season that, this is not a game anymore. And not that it was before, but, it's, there's some more wide affecting, stuff that could happen if this gets in the wrong hands. So, yeah.
Well, we've had Earth actually be revisited and in danger, and we've had, impacts to all the different worlds. So, yeah, I think it's starting to come into focus here a little bit.
Yeah. Plus, all the weird alternate realities he's seen that have gone to pieces because of, all these things. So. And, after he, sets off, talks about the bomb, then right off the bat, they crash the conference. And John pretty much tells everybody at the table that Peacekeepers can't make wormhole weapons, despite what Grace has been telling the Scarrans. Yeah. She's like, that's not true. And I was like, yeah, no, it really is.
Thou doth protest too much.
Right. But then after that, they kind of drop it. And both sides just want to deal with John to, try to buy him off. So I guess my one, or a small nitpick of this is, so now the Scarrans know, or at least know that John has told them basically that, their big fear, which is why they're at this peace conference, is because Peacekeepers have wormhole weapons, but they don't bite on that. So are they like confused or put off, or they don't know what to believe because she says they do, he says they don't, which one's right? So they're just like, we'll just get the knowledge for ourselves. And if the Peacekeepers have it, great. If not, we got it. If they both wind up getting it, then I guess you have the Cold War, like John says. Both sides have the nuclear bomb, so to speak, so that they're not going to use it because it's mutually assured destruction, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Peacekeepers definitely were put in the worst spot. I definitely saw that. Especially if you consider like the location of the meet. They're at this Scarran fortress and, surrounded by all these different groups. So, yeah, I'm amazed that Graza got through it as well as she did, for sure.
Yeah, because she's there because I guess the high command thinks that they can pull off this peace deal, or she's going to become a high command, whatever, who knows? And she's going to rule and make peace, and then turn around and conquer them anyway once they get the weapons. But yeah, it's like, oh well.
Yeah,
we'll try again.
Circle back. Yeah, we'll circle back to maybe a little bit of like who's actually running the Peacekeepers, because it's a little confusing because you've got the Emperor for the Scarrans and Graza for the Peacekeepers, not whoever else you'd think they would send. So I don't know. It's kind of an interesting dynamic.
Mm-hmm. And overall, that was a great scene at the conference with Ben basically chewing up the scenery, jumping up on tables, knocking stuff off, wildly gesturing and saying crazy Earth euphemisms or quotes or whatever that no one understands, but that's Farscape. That's what we like about Farscape. So I can only imagine that was probably great for him to just cut loose and film that.
Yeah, he definitely has, that they all do, but this is a good example of how well he has his character down, right? But it's when you're speaking of the actor Ben Browder, but it kind of makes sense because we've had so much time to get into these characters, and it kind of makes me sad to know it's winding down. I don't remember if the crew knew at this point that they were winding down, but yeah, it's just they've got the characters so well thought out and working on all cylinders except for maybe Naranti. So, but yeah, it just kind of makes you sad that the end is nigh. So they kind of go back and forth with each side offering John stuff. So, John's got a couple of meetings with Graza. The first time she offers him his name is Price, and he doesn't say anything. And the second time she offers basically pardons for him and everybody on the crew.
which, I mean, those are very tempting offers. That's kind of one thing he's wanted since he got there, is to get the Peacekeepers off him, and everybody else too, who've been, former prisoners and whatever else. But, they're not going to bite on it because that's not why they're really there. They're not going to sell the wormhole knowledge. They're just kind of...
No, it's a delaying tactic at this point, right? So they're just kind of dragging it back. They'll talk to anybody who wants us to delay and buy time.
Yeah, because they're trying to create havoc and cause chaos and rescue Scorpius and get out, and just leave them to fight amongst themselves, or even better yet, destroy themselves. And, that'll buy them a lot of time probably. But it was kind of cool to see, I guess, Bracca's there too, as, the Grace's, whatever, second in command. So it's kind of good to see him there, and, he's alone in one scene, I guess, trying to find Scorpius. And, they kind of ask him like, oh, does mommy know you're here? Oh, she doesn't. Or does mommy know you still like Scorpio, or whatever it is? And it's like, oh, she doesn't, so and then later, apparently, at the end, when all the chaos is going on, and there's a Charad trying to stop them from saving Scorpius or getting back to the landing bay, he shows up and shoots one of the Charads. So I know that it's kind of like that subtlety, or that you're not really sure where his loyalties are. Like, is he loyal to both Grace and Scorpio? Is he playing both sides somehow for some other reason? Or is he just like your typical loyal officer, to both his former and current commander?
I think, depending on who's around at the time, he's playing whatever side he has to. But my overall take is that as long as he's not drugged by whatever Grace's magic little drug thing she can do is, I think it's definitely Scorpion. He's just, covered his bases with this cover and preserving his life by going along with Graza, right? Because Scorpion's abandoned him to go do whatever Scorpion's doing right now. So, he's got to make his way where he can and still be able to spy and report back for Scorpius when he needs it. So,
yeah. And also, I just kind of thought, he knows that, like Graza, that, if the Scarrans want to, they could probably overwhelm the Peacekeepers, right? Only this wormhole weapon threat is kind of keeping them away, and that's why they're at this conference, right? So, yeah, I mean, if something happens to Scorpio or John, he's screwed. Like, his entire, race of people are in trouble, right? So, yeah, maybe he's got the bigger picture in mind too, maybe.
And once we hit the end of the episode, I'm really hope that next time we get to see the ramifications for him, right? Because from what you just said, and protecting his empire, how is, the ending of this episode going to affect where he stands?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then on the other side of the table, we got John and Aaron interacting with Scarrans. Yeah, we kind of have two differing opinions here. We got Akna, who's thinking he's just bluffing and it's not really a bomb, and then she tries to force John to disarm the bomb. But then when she realizes he's apparently insane and the bomb is ready to be repeatedly, she's like, okay, sure. But then again, she just wants to get back to torturing Scorpio, since if he's got the information, they don't need John at all. So fine, go away, do your thing. But apparently she gets into more trouble with the Emperor later, or at least as the episode goes on, because I guess she's in charge of, security or stuff around the base. And, Aaron and John get into the place with the little flower plants that the Scarrans like to eat. And I guess that blame falls on her. The torture's not going so well. Of course, that's all her. So, yeah, I guess the Emperor is not liking it too much. No pressure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely what we call a resume generating event, or assuming she doesn't get killed. But
yeah, so there's probably not a lot of second jobs in the Scarran hierarchy if you mess up from the Emperor.
Yeah, evidently defecting to the other side is a sound tactic. But yeah, like you say, it also shows some of the danger of being in charge of too many things at one time, because she can't concentrate on security because she tried to torture Scorpius, but she's getting in trouble for torture Scorpius and failing at the security and fail. It's like, maybe they should have hired a chief of security and let her torture, or have a torturer on standby. I don't know. Maybe the Scarran Empire is not as efficient as we think it is.
Yeah. Leave Stark there for a while and go off to some things that can.
Delegation, maybe.
Yeah. And we'll save the Emperor for the end, because I have some major questions about that. And then just kind of a final thing to say about unrelated to actual characters, but about the episode in general. As love the gun battle at the end between the Chariots and the Kalish. We get finally. Remember those Kalish guys can like change their centers of gravity and like walk on walls and vertical surfaces and stuff. Well, it was cool to see them all like hanging off the walls and beams shooting the Chariots. It kind of reminded me of the Matrix a lot. Which of course I like that. And there's always room for a nice gun battle in the sci-fi show.
Yeah, definitely not too bad for a Sci-Fi Channel show from this time frame. But yeah, nothing more I have to add than that. I completely agree that it's firing on all cylinders.
And you couldn't tell if they were on wires or they just turned the screen sideways and like the Batman, climbed up the building. Like,
Is that how they did that?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
Yeah, I did. Just mess with you.
It's like cheap effects, but hey, they were. Yeah.
Hey, yeah. Practical effects are never the out of style. There's always room for them, even in CGI days.
Yep. And yeah, so speaking of Kalish, let's talk about Sikozu here. Yeah, one of our moments. Apparently, she's a biolord, but not apparently like the one we saw the duplicated Aaron a few episodes ago. I'm guessing that explains, or at least partly explains, in my head anyway, last episode when she used a Scarran like heat ray to fry a console. So, that's not what we've seen usual Kalish people do. Yeah, not standard Kalish issue. Don't know why she has that. Maybe we'll find out. I don't know. And apparently she's part of some resistance against the Scarrans, which apparently this other bioloid she meets on Katratzi is like also. I guess because they said that the Kalish are like the servants of the Scarran, their conquered species. I think Scorpius said last episode. So I guess with any conquered species, I guess there's a resistance to that, right? But
yes,
yeah. But like one of my many thousand questions here is when she introduces herself to the other bioloid Kalish, which we didn't know he was at the time, she does like this weird eye thing where like her eye like basically spins around from like the regular people thing to like some weird swirl thing. And that proves that she's a bioloid. And he does the same thing. But what if he wasn't a bioloid? So she does that little thing saying, "Hey, I'm a bioloid." And he's like, "What? Like, what would she have done? Would she have then killed him to not expose her or something?" And if she's a bioloid, like the Aaron one, there's like a real Sikozu out there somewhere that she's based off of, like her knowledge and appearance and stuff. I don't know. I got tons of questions, and of course, they'll answer any of them here.
Yeah. So to continue on with our confusion, right? This was the plot point of this episode that had me the most confused, which maybe that's their intention, but again, I guess that's a sign of a good story because I usually get lost at least once during the really good ones. But did we have any previous indication or that she was a bioloid, or was this just like a total like we're just supposed to roll with this revelation in the middle of this episode and okay, she's a bioloid. I
haven't seen any indication. Yeah.
Yeah. Had she been a bioloid the entire time, or was it the real Sikozu up until this, and she got replaced at the same time as Aaron got replaced, and we just all missed it, or the crew all missed it? Was it some other random time? Does Scorpio know that she's a bioloid because they were getting pretty close? And I got more. Like, didn't we see her get like torn apart and have to put herself back together through the whatever healing things that she can do in various points?
Yeah, well, a couple of times. And yeah, is that a normal Kalish thing or no one knows what they are? So she just said, "Oh yeah, I'm a Kalish. We did this." And they're like, "Okay."
I know you said she's a different bioloid from what the Aaron bioloid was, but it's amazing that the insides didn't get revealed to be bioloidish. And then, how does she walk on walls and change her center of gravity as a bioloid? Anyway, I could just keep going because it's like, now I question like all of history at this point. So,
yeah, I guess take it back, like when she did have like her arm, I guess, cut off or whatever, it was the same, if I remember, it was the same kind of weird, kind of whitish blood kind of thing that the fake Aaron Bioloid had when John shot her. So yeah, I'm like, is that just Kalish blood? Or again, she's the only Kalish we've known, for a season here. Is she not really Kalish, right? And she's got obviously some augmented things that we haven't seen other Kalish use. The center of gravity thing, sure, they've done that. We saw that in this episode. This is only like the second time we've seen other Kalish, right? It's last episode and this episode. So we have no idea, do they all have the heat things and is it just her? Do they all have the reattached limb thing? Like, we don't know. I mean,
yeah, this one got me. I mean, I half expected her to be like, another Scarran hybrid, which is why she was so buddy with Scorpius. But I didn't see the Bioloid thing coming. So good job, Farscape.
And also, good job, Farscape. And speaking of other questions about our crew members, Scorpius has some big reveals here, just out of the blue. I mean, I about fell off the chair when he's being tortured and the Emperor shows up and he's talking to him. And he's like, he's apparently served 10 cycles as a spy for the Emperor. What? I mean, good job out of left field on that one. Did not see that coming at all. But I mean, now going back to his history, that's a great spy. I mean, you become a peacekeeper, you go up their hierarchy to where you're in charge of special projects, command carriers, secret science bases. You're working on wormhole stuff, which the peacekeepers want because they want to, take over the universe and destroy the Scarrans. And I guess he's in theory working on that wormhole stuff. Now he's a spy to give to the Scarrans, or not? I mean, as always with Scorpius, he's got his own plans within plans. Not the least of which is the last scene here where he's offering to show John, quote unquote, the truth, whatever that means. Going to guess that that's probably not for the benefit of the Scarrans or the Peacekeepers. Probably just for Scorpius or John or both, or just really Scorpius. I mean, I guess we're going to see because they outline this thing up here. And just one more weird side note. He told the Emperor that Akna couldn't harm him, so he was just faking being tortured, like, oh, ow, please stop, no. But did it also apply for Stark too? Because I don't think he was immune to that, so I don't know if that caught him off guard, but I don't know. It's, again, questions.
Well, and did he even know that Stark was going to be there before Stark showed up? Like, I don't know. But yeah, the hits just keep coming in this episode. My take, just because I have a lack of trust in Scorpius, he's probably setting himself up to be the new Emperor. I mean, do you really think he's backing the Scarran Emperor, or do you think he's going to make a play for maybe a unified Scarran and Peacekeeper, unifying it under himself, and he's going to be in charge of everything? I mean, that seems like a good ultimate endgame for him. But yeah, major deep cover either way. Like you say, a 10-year spy, deeply embedded in the Peacekeepers, and we thought he was, running the Peacekeeper stuff this whole time until they betrayed him. It's kind of like, yeah. It's like, oh, goodness, yeah.
So I mean, great plot twist among, it definitely trumped the Sakosha plot twist. So
yeah, I mean, maybe it depends on which way you want to go. I think the Scorpius plot twist was I didn't see it coming. And it's okay. How are they going to make that work? Whereas the Sikozu one's just like, I don't understand. Where did this come from? Now I'm just confused. So,
speaking of things that confuse me, yeah. So, okay, finally, the Scarran Emperor. Okay, let's dive into this here. So, okay, we learned that Scorpius is a spy, but he said he can resist being tortured by Akna, so he's just faking it. So, why did Scorpius tell the Emperor that he doesn't have wormhole knowledge? I mean, probably, because why else do this fake torture thing if he just could have told the Emperor, hey, here's some wormhole equations, I know it all, let's go. I mean, or maybe the knowledge he's gotten so far from Harvey 2.0 isn't complete, so they have to have John to finish it? Or, again, going, typical Scorpion conspiracy land, is he misleading the Emperor for his own ends, like we were talking about a second ago? I can only assume, based on what he said at the end, the last line of the episode was, telling John to trust him and learn the truth. There's got to be something else behind what's going on and what we've seen so far. And the Emperor is either in the middle of it or part of it or related to it somehow.
Yeah, I think my take is I don't see the Emperor making it past the next episode. I feel like he's going to get, taken out one way or the other. But so here's something that just occurred to me that I like, what if Harvey isn't anything to do with Scorpius? Like, what if Scorpius isn't getting any information from Harvey? What if Harvey was just either A, figment in John's head, or B, a failsafe that if Scorpius ever got in a desperate situation, it would trigger for John to have to rescue him no matter what. Like, it's not that he has the information. It's just that, like, a failsafe that John has to come help him.
Yeah, I like that. That's Scorpion-like. Yeah, that's definitely like a CYA, cover all the bases kind of thing, which that's what Scorpion is good at. Yeah, I like that idea.
And we would explain why he doesn't have the knowledge of wormholes. He's just, that's just because the only person has told us that so far is Harvey. So
true. And obviously you can't believe anything Harvey says because,
the definition of unreliable narrator.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But no, that's a good theory. I like that. Yeah. So yeah, Scorpion gets captured, because, he's trying to do something to keep John away from them so he can use the knowledge for himself probably. Right. And yeah, that's, you get captured. So of course, pull that option of, hey, you got to come get me because I know everything which again, who knows, right? I don't trust anything either one of them say. Although apparently Scorpion has the truth. So I guess we'll find out if that's really the truth or not next episode. But
yeah, I mean, we got to find out pretty quick here.
Yeah, because this is the next time's the end of the trilogy. So they have to wrap it up. Now, that doesn't mean that doesn't leave questions open for the final episode of the season / series. But yeah, I mean, we got to jump into the truth pretty quick into the next episode. So I don't know.
Yeah. Anti-penultimate. Is that where we're at?
Yeah. I'm sure there's a word for the penultimate episode, but well, yeah. So, this was a very meaty episode, I guess, as most part twos of things are, since you get more time to, the first episode sets up the plot. The second episode just does all the plot. And the third episode, you have to finish the plot and wrap things up and move on. So yeah, definitely they got as much stuff as they could possibly get into this episode. But in case we didn't cover it, is there anything else we can talk about that we should?
At this point, and not unless you have some answers, more answers than I do, because
nope,
I'm all out. So yeah, okay. Well, otherwise, next time.
Yeah. Yep. So next time we will keep going numerically, and we'll cover season 4, episode 21.
I thought we were going to do 26. All right, we'll go back to 21.
Yeah, we'll go back to season 1. Sorry. Yeah, so
D and Alien. Well, we can revisit that.
No, please, that's good. So it'll be season 4, episode 21. We're so screwed. Part 3, La Bamba. So playing our usual guessing game of what does that mean? Well, I mean, obviously another play on words title that this whole thing has been so far. It's not the Richie Valens song La Bamba, but La Bamba, which of course is a reference to the nuclear bomb John's been strapped to from last episode that apparently is about ready to go off as he and Scorpio are lying on the floor there.
Yeah, it looks like he's about ready to Hulk out.
Yeah. And since this is not a 4-parter, it's got to end next time. So, obviously we're going to get the conclusion of that and set us up for the final episode of the season, which unfortunately, as we all know, is the end of the entire regular series. Cry emoji, sad face.
Wow, it's really happening. Yeah, so my take is the bomb goes off with a fizz, because I still don't think John would risk the crew, but maybe I'm wrong there. And either way, the crew's going to lose their bargaining chip, the bomb in La Bamba. And hopefully we get to see what Scorpius is really up to and maybe figure out what Sikozu is. But anyway,
Yeah.
definitely the Scorpius part.
Yeah, because they got 2 episodes at the time. Granted, they thought they'd hold another season, but anyway, we got 2 episodes to figure out what the heck is going on here. So that will be your homework, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.